Okay, looks like we are live. I want to welcome everyone to the Cambridge University Film Association behind the scenes web series where we feature some of the film industry's biggest and brightest directors, cinematographers, producers, and screenwriters. Today, we are extremely excited to bring to you our first speaker in this series, a director who has worked on a very groundbreaking documentary called Black and Scottish, which featured on BBC. And here's a brief snippet of his work.
I think when you see another black person, you're kind of like, oh my God, there's another one. Like, I must find them and I must be friends with them.
You'd open your mouth and it'd be like, oh my gosh, you're from Scotland.
We didn't even know there were black people in Scotland. I identify most with being Scottish, but I'm a black Scottish woman and I'm completely okay with that.
I remember definitely feeling like, oh my God, I think I might be the only black person in the world.
You had to prove you were Scottish. Do you know what I mean? You were always challenged as to whether, but you can't, no, but where are you really from?
There are black and Scottish people, we exist.
My name's Stewart Kyasimire. I'm 8 years old and I'm proud to be black and Scottish.
That was fantastic. So that was a little snippet of Stewart Kyasimire's Black and Scottish trailer that was featured on the BBC. Just a few housekeeping rules before we start the Q&A. So if you have any questions for Stewart throughout the Q&A, please type them in the chat, public chat below, and I will try to get to them towards the end of the show and hopefully give us your best answers, best questions, and I will try to put them to him at the end of the show if there is time. So bear with me one moment. We're about to introduce Stewart. Stewart.
Hello. Hi.
How you doing? I'm very, very well. We are pleased to have you on behind the scenes with the Cambridge University Film Association. How have you been? You're looking very well.
I have been good. I have been good, as I was saying to you earlier, ever since this documentary has come out. It's just been unbelievable, the amount of feedback I've got, the amount of response, not just within the film industry, within government, etc. Obviously, you guys as well. So it's been beautiful. It's no longer Scotland. People around the whole of the UK have been contacting me. So yeah, I'm in a good place.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we definitely want to touch on your work in Black and Scottish because it was such an intimate and groundbreaking documentary, and I think everyone would agree with that. But I think we wanted to go back a bit. We want to know the moment in your early career and in your formative years as a filmmaker, and the kind of moment you knew that you definitely wanted to tell stories through the medium of film.
To the medium of film, I want to tell. I was always curious of the human mind. I was always the kind of person, a young age, teenager, would always ask things like, so what are you thinking about? What do you feel about that? What's your thoughts on that? I was always interested in non-verbal communication and how people came across physically as well. I started off in music. Okay, so as a musician, I wanted to tell stories that way, and there's only so much that you can do in music. You have 3.5 minutes or so to express how you feel. I'm always someone that wanted to tell my story because I felt that my story and other people's story where I'm from is fairly unique, coming from Kenya to London to then coming up to Scotland. So I was very curious of, as I said, the human mind. So with music, I felt I needed a larger platform. But by this point, I didn't really have an understanding of cameras, etc. And it wasn't until I was around people with cameras asking to make content for me, music videos or whatever it was at the time, I found myself being really interested in that. Now I come from an art background as well, so I come from fine art, drawing faces, and when you have a love of art, especially portraiture, you have to have an understanding of of light and how light hits the face and textures and detail. So I think having a love of art and then moving into photography,
Okay.
the love of photography, and then coupled with the love of the human mind, what happened was, I would say, there was a camera that came out. It was a camera T2i that came out, and that just changed the game. That was a camera that could shoot full frame, and it could give you a beautiful depth of field, because a cinematic look, as you know, is all about focus, beautiful depth of field, etc. So then when I started to see that the images that I was producing as a photographer, when I started to see that could now be moving image, that blew my mind. I'm like, so I'm concentrating on this one still, and now this one still is now moving, and I'm like, what? It still looks the same. And then from there, having an understanding of editing as well. I think that was the turning point for me, in the sense of I can use my skill set as an artist to tell stories. But what happened was I was telling other people's stories. So it was, don't get me wrong, it started off, it was terrible. Some of the content I was creating was so bad. But the fact that I was doing it was the start. And I would say my early 20s, coming off of creating music and trying to do music videos, my early 20s, I kind of started to discover who I was and started to see that, hold on a minute, I'm the only black person in the village. I realized when I left Scotland, and even within Scotland as well, I realized that there's not many people like me. And then I then started working for larger corporations and designing and creating content from them. I'm going quite fast here in my story, but I started creating content for them. And then what happened was I then became obsessed with cameras, technology, and what cameras could do, and what you could capture, and the depth of field, and the color grading, all of these things, an amalgamation of everything coming together, made me more interested in cinematography first and foremost. I loved how films looked and the colors, etc. But then as you get older, you start to have experience of the world, start to look outwards, and start to hear people's stories. So that human mind thing comes back, and hearing beautiful stories. And as an artist, when someone's telling you a story of their life, you can see it, you can watch it. And when I speak to other creatives like me, if I'm explaining something to them and they're explaining something to me, we both say, I just watched that and it was beautiful. And I think that's what the difference is being able to see the story in your head and how you perceive it. So then I started then I have a son, and then my daughter was born. She's now 10. Yasmin's in the documentary. She's the girl at the end. We now started to get into a world where she found it hard to identify. Mixed race girl living in a white community. There was certain things that she'd said that made me go, hold on a minute, she doesn't really identify, no matter how much I speak to her. This is a few years down the line. I decided, you know what, I want to make something that provides notable black people up. I didn't have any black role models growing up, certainly not in the film industry. And I thought, I'm going to try and do the same for her. But taking all of my knowledge of creating content, I would create trailers and I just decided, you know what, I'm not going to beg and plead funding companies. I'm not going to approach the BBC. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a trailer for myself and then see how that goes. And then fortunately, I'm in an area where there's a lot of people that work for the BBC. And then from there, I decided, you know what, I really want to make Black and Scottish. From speaking to people, a lot of people were interested in it. And I knew that people would be interested because they've never seen people like us before. Shuti Gatwa in the documentary says we're like mythical creatures. No one knows who we are. So as a black person, on a serious note, as a black person, it's like, as a black community, we're underrepresented anyway. Certain cultures we're exceeding in, music, etc. But within the film industry, no, that's not happening. So I started to see the lack of representation and inclusion. You know that yourself. You know that full well yourself. Yeah. And then that started to anger me, and I came to the point where I was like, no, this is not right. Being a confident individual running my own business for the last nearly 7 years now, you kind of understand, you have conversations with other people in your position, and you see that they're fully represented and that we're not. And then I'd always hear, I didn't know those black people in Scotland. I didn't know those black people in Scotland. And the more you hear that, and keeping in mind, the talented black people in Scotland are, then that came together, and then I said, right, I need to make this documentary, and that's kind of how roughly it came about.
Okay. Well, you sound like a very talented artist, and definitely a pioneer of your time. But like when you were growing up, when you were approaching this project, were there kind of any films or documentaries that influenced your creative and technical choices?
Growing up, okay, so one thing inspired me was Simon Frederick's Black and British. That definitely inspired me. But as I said, growing up, in the sense of, do you mean the look and feel and the direction?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say more so in the last few years anyway. It's Netflix documentaries have been a good example. Masterclass is a thing where it's celebrities in the different fields telling you how they create their content. But growing up, I would say it would be people like Louis Theroux was probably a main one for me. Louis Theroux, I loved Louis Theroux because with Louis Theroux, he could go and speak to people in prisons. He could go and speak to some crazy people who have crazy ways of thinking, but you would never know his views on it. He was just agnostic. He was just impartial. He had this vibe about him where, I don't know, he had that, I don't know what I'm looking for, a kind of idiot approach, like as if do you know what I mean? It's like
he didn't like exert his own.
Yeah, he didn't. And I really like that about him, because he was able to get so much from those individuals. He was able to do so much. I know his documentaries were just so diverse and different. I never wanted to make documentaries that were like following people around and things like that. I wanted to make a documentary where you can get a group of people who wouldn't normally have a voice, and then give them a voice. That was what my main interest. But I would say, Louis Theroux, and who else? Stephen Fry, Louis Theroux, Stephen Fry, and obviously Spike Lee. He doesn't really make documentaries, but Spike Lee in the sense of kind of black activist,
Yeah.
Take all three of them, and that kind of what was my drive, really.
Okay. I mean, you've spoken quite a lot about like how you were an artist, visual artist, and like you dabbled in music as an entry point. But I think for many student filmmakers or like kind of amateur filmmakers, the model seems to be film school in order to get the kind of rubber stamp of legitimacy to enter the film industry. What are your thoughts on film school? Do you feel like you've overcome some challenges that?
It's a very good question. It's a conversation we always have. Film school, self-taught, film school, the amount of money you need, the amount you owe back after you leave, and then self-taught. I'm self-taught in everything I do. I grade, I edit, I film. So there's a documentary coming out that I've shot for the BBC. It's coming out, I think, first week of September. And BBC Scotland and BBC Three, and I filmed, directed, and produced that. Now that was a mean feat. That's years of just being obsessed and passionate about film, but it's a difficult one because I don't want to deter people. I believe that if you have faith or a true passion, like you have, who was it Tarantino said, if you're really obsessed with film. Yeah. He said something like, "You'll make a great film." What he means by that is when you fail, you'll get back up again. Fail, you have to tell that story. And also, Martin Scorsese says something like, "If you're interested," so he asks people, "Are you interested in film?" "Yeah, I'm interested in film." And he goes, "If you're interested in film, then maybe this isn't for you." But if you're obsessed with it, passionate about it, and it makes you physically sick every time you think about it, then film is for you. That is what I truly, truly, truly believe. I can't stress that enough. People don't see the hours of like I'm someone that doesn't drink. I'm now a full-time director, and when I was working within other sectors as a designer, I'd finish work, look after the kids. Kids would go to bed around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then from there 8 till 12 every single night for years. That's all I did was teach myself about film. Now, one thing my mum taught me, and I think this is crucial, was she said to me, as a black person, you need to work exceptional. You need to work harder than white people here in the UK. That's what many black people are told. My mum's got 3 degrees, very educated woman, and she taught me. She said, if you look at a curriculum, university, you've got September weekend, October holidays, summer holidays, you've got Easter holidays, you've got all of these different holidays, and the student will go and study throughout the term, and then they'll go on their holiday and come back. She said, take away those holidays, you'll be able to get about 2 years within 1 year or more studying and just learning. But so I thought, right, I'm just going to continue learning. But then what I did as well is within film, I picked what I wanted to learn, and I took away what I didn't. So let's say, for example, you're studying art. I wouldn't learn about art history. I don't feel as if I need to, for what it is I'm creating, I don't need to learn about what's happened. Obviously, there's stuff that you do need to be aware of, but I picked what I wanted. So, for example, color grading, editing, camera work, all of these different things, I concentrated in those small things. So I didn't have the time really to go to think about things like film school. At the time, I didn't even know I wanted to be a filmmaker. But it's funny because it's a good question, because I don't actually know what you guys study at film school. I don't actually know exactly what the curriculum is. But what I could do is I could speak to your students or look at your curriculum and go, if you want to do this, 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 and that, then you don't need that and that. That's what I'm able to do. Now, the reason I'm able to do that is because I'm able to come from a position where I'm self-taught and I'm now working within the industry. So in the sense of advice, you need to pick and choose carefully what you want. Question the curriculum even. Don't be afraid to question it, because there's people out there, many talented individuals that I know are all self-taught, or people that have come slowly into the industry. So it's a very good question, and I don't want to deter anyone. But one thing I can say is, if you're someone who believes in God, I'm not religious, right? But that faith that you have in God, or that belief that you have in whatever religion you are, that strong belief where you feel there's heaven, or you feel that there's a God and you can't explain it. See, that faith that you have, if you also take that and put that into your love of film, you'll guaranteed you'll become a successful filmmaker. There is no doubt about it, because faith is so strong that when you get to the point where you say, yes, I believe. I knew that Black and Scottish was going to be in the BBC. I knew it before I even approached the BBC. I knew you know what stories to tell, and you know how confident you are to tell that story. So it's passion, really. It's obsession and passion. So I'm not saying that film school you don't need film school, but what I am saying is the tools that you need to create, you'll find those tools and you'll obsess over it. You need to not be going out all the time and drinking and all of these different things. You're young, so enjoy your life, but at the same time, when you see other people in certain positions, you look at them and go, I will be there. I will be there. And the reason I know I'll be there is because I'm passionate and obsessed with telling stories. And that's all I could really say on that.
No, I think that was like such a comprehensive answer, to be honest. But yeah, we really wanted to know kind of the creative and technical decision to explore Black and Scottish as a documentary, and as kind of fiction?
Okay, as a documentary, right? Okay, so let me see. Okay, so let's take number one. You have a black director who is Black and Scottish. So we know that we want to tell my story and other Black people's story, right? So I remember when I was working as a designer for Lloyd's Banking Group. I was speaking to another black person there. I'm the only other Black person in the room, from Manchester. And as I said to you, I have a love of technology, cameras. So I was just shooting with like lame cameras, nothing special. And then a camera came out, the Sony A7S II full frame camera came out, and it was about £2,000 for the body and then whatever lenses. And I became obsessed with that camera because it was full frame. It was a cinematic camera. There was some movies that had been shot with it, and that blew my mind because I was like, look at this little camera and look at the images it's producing. So I then had this camera and I'm like, I want to shoot everything. It was a crazy low light camera, so I was shooting everything in the dark, really, and this camera was great for that. So we have that love of the camera. And then, as I said, coming from photography, you have an understanding of lighting and how light you paint with light, as you know. So we then have that, and then a love of the human face. So what happened was, I don't know if you want to go into the technical side of things and how like you don't want to get into.
I would love you to explore this any way which you'd like to.
Anyway,
yeah.
So if someone was to try and recreate, or someone was to try and do what I had done, right? So what I did first was I taught myself how to set up an interview. Okay, so you've got your typical, your typical interviews out there where you've got the person sitting on one side, you've got the person being interviewed, and then you've got your light hitting you. I'm obsessed with how to set up an interview. That was one of my main things, because for a documentary, majority of a documentary is talking heads. So I had an understanding. I knew I needed this kind of light. I knew I needed an aperture 120D. I needed it to be soft. I needed a soft box. I needed LED lights to light up the back and etc. I needed 2 cameras, so I needed 2 A7S II. So I hired one, and I had one of my own. And then once I kind of mastered that, I've actually got old videos of the test shots I did for Black and Scottish. Once I mastered that side of things and going, right, I think I know how to set up an interview. I think I don't know yet. Then after that, it's like, right, in my head, I'm thinking, right, I'm going to tell Black and Scottish. This is when I realized this is the documentary that I want to make. I wanted to make it with your everyday Black person. So there was a girl who was an art student, Mavis her name was, and her boyfriend. So I said, guys, I'm looking to make this documentary. Is there any chance I can use you guys as a subject? So that, no problem, that's fine. So we went to I went to a location. What was it? It was a hotel lobby or whatever. And so I knew, I didn't do any planning really. I knew that I had a set of questions I wanted to ask them, but I was more obsessed with how it looked for some reason. I think that's coming from the art background, but how it looked. But I knew there was a question. So what was it like growing up in Scotland? What was it like being the only Black person? The generic questions that you would have. So I set it all up, got the two students in, got them in the room, lit it the way I wanted. The audio was terrible. I didn't know anything about it. Notice how I didn't speak about audio because I hate it. Someone else can do that. But I found a way to. So I had the boom mic. So I was interviewing them. I had the camera here. I didn't have a stand for the boom mic, so I'm booming them at the same time and making sure it doesn't come into frame. It's quite comical actually. And then I made the talking heads part, and I cut that up. But I wanted B-roll. So in a good documentary, you have your A camera, you have your B camera, and you have your B-roll. Your B-roll is like, let's say I'm talking to you now, and I'm talking about me in my younger days. It would cut to pictures of me in my younger days, etc. So I then went about Glasgow because I wanted to show black people in Glasgow in situ, if you'd say. So I then went about Glasgow, and just seeing black people in Glasgow is strange anyway. Just even to this day, it's like when I see an influx of black people, it's still like, okay, this is a thing. So then I got them around Glasgow, and I got them to like take pictures and just have that presence. And then from there, I then took those files into DaVinci Resolve, is what I know, Final Cut Pro at the time, and then started to cut it up. But as I said to you, I've got Louis Theroux, I had Black and British, I had Black is the New Black as examples of what I wanted to create. But by the time I got there, I kind of had an understanding of the structure of the documentary. So that was me just working on it on my own, on my to create that. And then after that, I put together some kind of trailer, a trailer that would show, obviously, black people with Scottish accent talking about living in Scotland, etc., etc. So I knew I got that. I knew, right, I'm onto something here. And then, as I said, I'm very lucky because the area that I live in Glasgow, there's a hell of a lot of people from the BBC that live here. A lot of people from the television and film industry live in my area. The executive producer for this most recent documentary just lives around the corner. The head of BBC Social lives around the corner. The head of BBC Comedy Scotland again lives in the same area, and there's a lot of different producers. So how I came to actually get into the industry was I was watching. So when you want to get into the industry, one of the main things that I think everyone should do is read the credits. The credits are so important. Every single credit, take down all of their names and find out who these people are. You can either get them on Twitter, you can get them on LinkedIn, you can get them in various places. So my partner actually, we were watching a Scottish documentary about a young black boy, and she'd seen, oh, there's Anne Claire. Anne Claire, it's like, is that not Lottie's mum, for example? It's like, that's the mother of a kid at our school. So she's like, just go and speak to her, go and show your trailer. I was reluctant. I was like, no, it's not ready yet. She's like, no, go and see her. So we were outside the school, and she just went up to the mum and just was like, look, Stuart wants to tell you something. He wants to show you. All right, okay. I was embarrassed. And then I showed her the documentary, and you can see her brain just going, I'm telling her, this is what I want to do. I feel like it should be a documentary about this. And her brain was just, she's like, leave it with me. I know a production company that I currently work with just now. To cut a long story short, she then went to the production company and kind of pitched it to them. And at this point, I didn't really know much about pitching, but pitched it to them. And then they said, you know what, we're interested in it. It sounds something interesting. So they then brought me in for a chat. And then they could tell how passionate I was about making this documentary. And from there, they decided, right, okay, we're going to pitch it. So we put together a director's statement about how you want to film it and what the documentary is about. They then taught me how to put together a summary and a pitch. So Black and Scottish, we would like to make this documentary to representation of black people. People don't know there's black people in Scotland, etc., etc., etc. You can imagine what the narrative would have been at the time. And then from there, they then said, you know what, we're going to pitch it. We'll speak to the BBC. Next thing I know, a week later, I'm sitting in BBC studios with a commissioner, and they were pitching one of their other documentaries, and then I was next. And I showed her the trailer, and she was just like, wow, that is amazing. I absolutely love that. You've done it. Then we went back. She's like, she didn't give us the commission. She's just like, right, go away and put together a pitch for us. And then we put together the pitch. And at a later stage with your students, I can show you how to put together a summary and pitch, because that's something that's very, 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 very important. Getting that right is crucial. Getting that right is a way you'll get a yes to a commission or not. Okay. And so they put together a pitch. And then about a week later after that, I just got an email saying we got the commission. And I was like, my mind was blown. I'm like, oh my God. But can I tell you something? I didn't really know what that meant. I didn't really know what it meant. Now the hard work starts, research, etc. So then from there, it literally was just a learning curve. It was a case of, right, okay, Stuart, we've got this team for you. We've got a producer. We've got a researcher. You're going to direct the documentary. We've got an executive producer. We've got, you know, this is a team to help me make the documentary. And then from there, it was a case of working with the team to find the right profiles. But one thing the BBC did say to me was, look, we would like you to have people that are known in out there, instead of it being about your everyday black Scot. How about people like Emily Sandy, or we didn't know at the time Ncuti Gatwa was from Scotland. Ncuti Gatwa, there was people from X Factor, there was Sir Jeff Palmer, there was. So they said that would be good because that will be entice people to come and watch the film. So from there, the researcher played a blinder. I couldn't believe their ways of contacting people: Instagram, Messenger, Facebook. You know, finding people's phone numbers, agents. Like, they went anywhere to. But that pitch for them putting together, said, Director Stewart Kyasimire would like to make this documentary. So they helped put that together. And the researcher just came out of nowhere. Just, we've got this person, we've got that person. I'm like, how did you do that? Show me how you do this. How is that possible? Yeah. And then one day it was like, Stuart, how would you feel about one of the most famous Netflix actors being in your documentary? I'm like, what? Ncuti Gatwa. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know this guy was even Scottish. Has he agreed? Ncuti Gatwa has said basically he has never done any work in Scotland, and he was shooting Sex Education that day in Wales. That's where Sex Education is filmed. Now, his agent contacted him to say, look, the BBC would like you to come up and do something in Scotland called Black and Scottish. And his agent said that he jumped at the chance. He was he's like, I would love to do it. But the problem was he was shooting. So his agent spoke to Netflix and said, look, Ncuti is going to go away for a day. That's all. He'll be away for a day, come back the next day to go and shoot this documentary. Is that okay? Bit of deliberation. Netflix said, you know what? We'll move your shooting day till tomorrow. There you go. We flew him up to Scotland. I've never seen someone smile so much in my life. He was so ecstatic. He was so happy. And also, when I was speaking to him personally, he said he hadn't really spoken to many black people from Scotland. And then the Scottish accent came out. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know that. And he just felt comfortable with me, and he felt that he could be himself, and he was really, really happy to be in the documentary. But that was how good a researcher is. The researcher brought that guy in. And then it was a case of, right, location, what is the structure of the format? We wanted it to be something where it was mainly talking heads. It was a half-an-hour documentary. We would have hoped for it to be an hour, but that's at a later stage. And then from there, the work began within the production company. Getting the location, finding the right talent. As you know, you can imagine getting, I think it was up to 12 or 15 people to cut. It was a 3-day shoot to find the right day for them to come in, and it was like four or 5 people a day we shot. Was it consecutively? No, it wasn't consecutively. It was so yeah, just. I don't know how much you guys know about the process of actually making a documentary and getting it out there to the BBC.
I mean, we kind of wanted you to explore that with us, but you've touched so many things that, like, you preempted some of my questions, and I'm just like, okay, wow, all right, that's covered already. But one thing you touched on that just struck me is you remind me very much of Morgan Cooper, who shot and directed Bel Air, which is now being made into a gritty of Fresh Prince. Yes. Now, the idea of making this kind of proof of concept trailer, would you advocate like young or amateur filmmakers to do something like that, like a 3-minute trailer, prove how good it is, or as opposed to kind of going off and trying their hardest for the first time to make something really grand by themselves? Which would you advocate?
Okay, so this is the crux of my story. This is a thing that is ridiculously important to me. And this is what I keep telling everyone, right? So everything that I've pitched so far I've made a trailer for it, guaranteed. The documentary making just now, trailer, Black and Scottish trailer, at Yasmin's house. I'm happy to share a couple of the 1-minute trailers that I've made. Everything is a trailer, because being an artist, you make sense with your eyes. You know, it's like you eat food, for example. You kind of eat with your eyes, don't you?
Sure.
So everything was a high production trailer. I'm absolutely obsessed, and I absolutely love Morgan Cooper. I've been following him for years, and when I look at someone like him, I go, "Well, that's me." We do the exact same thing. He loves red.
Yeah, he does everything.
He did so much, and he absolutely loves technology in the sense of he loves the red camera. I don't know if he's still using red, but that's the kind of person that you need to be like. You really, I can't, you know.
He does everything. He executive produced, he wrote it, he shot it, he directed it. I think he even edited it. It was insane.
Exactly.
On the topic of trailers, just because we have more people currently watching the stream, I would love for them to actually see the trailer that you did make.
Yeah, okay.
I'll play that right now for everyone to watch.
And also, sorry, I was going to say the trailer that you're about to watch. I shot that, I cut it, and I graded it.
Wow. Okay, well, we're about to see it in all its glory. All right.
I think when you see another black person, you're kind of like, oh my god, there's another one. Like, I must find them and I must be friends with them.
You'd open your mouth and it'd be like, oh my gosh, you're from Scotland.
We didn't even know there were black people in Scotland.
I identify most with being Scottish, but I'm a black Scottish woman and I'm completely okay with that.
I remember definitely feeling like, oh my god, I think I might be the only black person in the world.
You had to prove you were Scottish. Do you know what I mean? You were always challenged as to whether, you know, but you can't know, but where are you really from?
There are black and Scottish people, we exist.
My name's Stewart Kyasimire. I'm 8 years old and I'm proud to be black and Scottish.
I love that. That is such an amazing trailer, and it really like struck all the points that you were trying to explore, and it made me want to watch. So just to go back to my question, the power of a concept trailer and taking that to, I guess, the power brokers or the gatekeepers, is that a route that you would advocate, or would you suggest people just go off and try to do it yourself and go through the
themes there? Okay, if you want to get on networks and want to get on these different platforms, I believe you have to make a trailer. You know, people are busy. People are extremely busy, and to sit there and read a summary and read a pitch, it has to be a really striking topic, a really striking story. You have to make a trailer. But the thing is that you don't need the production cameras. If you think about it, right? Black and Scottish, for example, I could have taken my phone and filmed these individuals in an interview. As simple as that. I could. You've got everything you need right here. Like, and I can't express that enough. I know that if I didn't have the cameras, that I would have just shot it on a phone anyway. Everything that's been commissioned so far has been a trailer. Now, the reason why a trailer is important is because you're dealing with commissioners and executives that are busy. They get them instantly. Be inspired by YouTubers. Now, I've learned so much from YouTubers. Morgan's on there. I've learned so much. It's ridiculous. I cannot explain how YouTube has been like my university.
No, I completely agree. That's all I do all day long. Watch YouTube.
All day long. You got people like Potato. There's one guy, Potato Jet. You've got who have you got? You've got so many individuals that I follow. So yeah, you have to make a trailer. I can't stress it enough. And do not get caught up. Do not get caught up in quality. Don't get caught up in what camera you're using. What I always say to people, you need to think about what's your campfire story, right? So take away all of the bells and whistles, right? Imagine you're in a desert. Imagine you're in a desert island with 10 other people, and you've got no technology, and it's just you guys around that campfire. What is your story that you're going to tell? That is not only going to be a case of you're telling your story, but also that's going to start a larger discussion within the group where other people can contribute and all of you can share your story on that particular subject that you're speaking about. That, and then if it doesn't need to be your own story, it could be someone else's story, but what kind of engagement, what is the takeaway? What is it that you want people to learn after listening to your story? Now, if you can get your campfire story in the right place and you can see that it's engaging, then see when you've already got them, that's you've got them, they're engaged, they know about your story, they're listening to you. And then all you're doing after that is just filming it with your phone. You know, and commissioners will love that. Commissioners, that is what they want. They want to see a trailer. They want to see a good PDF as well. Work on your documentation, work on how you present things. Everything is by the eye. Try and make it look good. Find yourself a graphic designer. You know, if there's imagery, use hero graphics, get images in there, couple that with your trailer, you're done. But at the same time, you've got YouTubers that have got 10 to 20 million followers who are getting X amount of million views a day. The networks are great places to be. The network is kind of more like a stamp, but you've got YouTubers out there that have a much larger reach than the networks here, for example, BBC. So in a sense of go out there and do it yourself, it's a different, for me anyway, it's a different kind of person that to do that. I've got kids and I don't have the option to sit and create and build up my socials, because yeah, you want to be in a position where, okay, you don't need a lot of people, you don't need a huge social following because people can share that for you. But it's a two-pronged approach, I think. I think get yourself out there, make a taster is what they call it. I call it a trailer because I call it a trailer because when I make something, it's a trailer to what I'm going to make. A taster is a little snippet of what it is. I don't do that. I just make a trailer. So go out there and make a trailer or make a taster, but do not worry about the technology that you're using. I would be more than I own my own production company now. When people try to pitch to me, I say, that's great, that's a beautiful story that you've got there. Can you go away and make a taster for me, or give me an idea of the people that you're looking to interview? The reason I do that is because, but then people will say to me, oh, but I'm not a director, I'm not a camera person. It's like, well, when's the last time? Let me see your phone. Like, you probably got about 1,000 images in your phone. How many selfies have you taken? How many family pics have you taken? Everyone is now a camera person. Everyone is. So everyone's a photographer. So get your phone out, film. In the sense of YouTube, going out and doing it on your own, of course, do the same thing. Because one of the things that I've been doing when I'm speaking to the networks is I'm going to make Behind the Smile, which is my next documentary, or I'm going to make this talk show, or I'm going to make whatever, but I'm also going to put it on other platforms. So I'm just giving you the opportunity to have this and for us to go ahead and make it and create it. But if you say no to it, that's absolutely fine, because I'm going to put it on this platform. So the documentary that I'm making just now, this guy's got 3 million plus followers, billions of video views. Just one post from him alone for his documentary, you've got people internationally. This guy's got more fans around the world. So I know that I have a bigger reach. A kind of two-pronged approach. But number one thing is make that trailer, get your phone out. Please make the taster. And I promise you, with the right summary and pitch alongside that, you've got it. Trust me. And remember that it it is about the story. So, as I mentioned, the campfire thing. Take the campfire story. Take your phone and go out there and create content. And if you fail, then that's a great thing to fail. Good, because you're going to learn something. You keep going, and if you continue to fail, it's a blessing to fail, you know?
No, honestly, like that is just gems. And it's so funny that I was speaking to AK, the writer of Famalam, and he said the same thing. He was like, go off, create a like proof of concept and go from there instead of trying to be plucky and creating this long show that is quite hard to make. So I'm really pleased of that response that you've given. I just wanted to kind of move on. I'm very conscious of time. I just wanted to move on slightly to the actual crux of Black and Scottish. And for me personally, it was like incredibly heartwarming to see your daughter Yasmin talk about her dual identity as a mixed race Scottish person. And for me, at least, she was like the emotional centerpiece of the documentary. Why did you decide to position her at the center of the doc? And was this a hard decision?
Yes, because Yasmin, out of all of my kids, Yasmin was the one that she said something to me when she was, I think she was around 6 years old, and she said, "Daddy, I don't really want you to come to school." And I'm like, "Why?" It's like, "Because you're Black." And I'm like, "What?" "Because I'm Black." And she said, "I just feel like people are going to laugh at you, and people won't like you because you're Black." And we didn't know what to do. I mean, her mum as well. We didn't know how to handle that, and it upset me a little bit. It did. It really did upset me. I didn't want Yasmin to know at the time, but I thought, oh my God, we're here again. We're in a position where skin color has now become an issue, and my daughter is now starting to look outwardly, look at the world, and see that, hold on, people may treat Black people like this. And then, so that really had an effect on me. And then, what else did she say? She said, I want straight hair. I want light skin. And that hurt me as well. And I was like, no, I need to make something where, okay, I made it Black and Scottish for the BBC, but there would have been something where as I said, I'm a creative. So I was thinking, right, I'm going to make a children's book about hair, about kids and fluffy animals, and one's got different color hair and one's got curly. I'll make a children's book then. I needed to create something because I didn't want my daughter to go through what I'd been through. As a black person growing up in the UK, it's been very, very, very hard, especially living in a world where you're surrounded around white people who don't understand who you are and your culture, who make presumptions, who just assume that you're this or that, and it was really, really upset. I had a hell of a lot of racism growing up, really, really upsetting. So I said, I'm sorry, I don't want my daughter to go through the same thing that I did. So I'm going to put her in a position where I'm going to bring people together to show her that these people have an accent like her and look like her, right? So then we thought, right, okay, we'll make it about Yasmin and we'll use her as the kind of crux for the documentary. But at the time, I was only getting just little pieces of Yasmin, just at the start and maybe the end. But then from speaking to the executive producer, he sat me down and he said, look, Anne Louise at the BBC sat me down and said, look, we think that you should maybe introduce Yasmin a little bit more throughout the documentary. She's beautiful in what she does, and also it's an extension of your story. You and Yasmin together will just be a beautiful thing to see. A Black man and his daughter. It's just, yourself what the stereotypes are and what the statistics are like here in the UK. So yeah. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional here, but
no, I completely understand that. It was watching it for me. It was just like, it was very heartwarming, and it was that emotional pull to the story. Like the documentary was only half an hour long, but I felt like I cared about the stories. I cared about just like the stories people had to tell, even though I'm far removed from that specific experience, but I felt some type of way.
Yeah, I think even when you're saying far removed, you obviously the connection is that you're black.
But obviously,
but the thing is as well is I also when I'm speaking to these networks, I'm speaking to white communities. I say black people can speak without. Black people can be in white communities and be with each other and be able to speak without speaking. There's things that we already know.
Yeah.
There's places that we could go as a group of people, right?
Yeah.
I know where I could go in Glasgow, and I know we both can speak to each other and go, we know we're going to get looked at, we know we're probably going to get some kind of abuse, but we don't even need to speak to each other. We just know.
Yeah.
So that's what you had when you're watching it. Even though you may be predominantly around black people, you know, and obviously it's your fellow black people, so you're wanting to hear their stories. But one thing you'll notice about Black and Scottish is there's only one small section that was about racism, and then right after racism was the love of Scotland.
Yeah.
Now, I said, why would I make a documentary that's all doom and gloom? Oh, black people are so racist to us, and I thought, forget that. No, there's also people out there. One of the people that's in it, Jean Johansson, who does A Place in the Sun, Celebrity MasterChef, and BBC Animal Park. She's my cousin, so she was a great role model as well. So we wanted to tell positive stories. And I think that's the other reason why it's done so well, is because people just assumed that it was going to be about racism and slavery, and it wasn't. And that's how people managed to engage with it, because they're like, oh my God, look at this positive. Oh my God, where do all these people come from? So it had to be positive for Yasmin and the next generation. And the funny thing is now our little sister Neve, who is 4, she's like, Daddy, I'm so proud to be Black and Scottish, and Daddy, I wish I was the same color as you. And see, for me, it's like, oh, I'm like, I've done it. That's it. A goal. I've achieved my goal. The next one, and then I've got another one after that. She's won. They will be able to now watch Black and Scottish and go, we've got no problem. We've got this person, that person, and that person. I know it's funny that because every other Black person that I know that is some kind of celebrity, I'm now starting to get them to make little videos to Yasmin. Hi, Yasmin, and just
I love that.
to keep that momentum going. And there's something that I can't fully disclose, but it involves Yasmin, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a pinnacle. It's going to be monumental. It's going to be something that's really, really inspiring, that involves her and a network. That's all I can say. But that's
I already know what it is. We'll talk about it off the live. But yeah, well done. Congrats. I just wanted to I'm very conscious of time. I wanted to try to whiz through these questions as much as possible.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so one of the questions we had was, do you believe it is incumbent upon Black creatives to write and create their own content in order to break through?
No.
Particularly in the UK. Because
I thought that I was like, I'm only telling BAME stories. I'm only telling Black stories. I watched something, Steve McQueen, the director, who is the person I love the most. I'm a filmmaker. I'm more of a filmmaker. The film I'm creating just now. But Steve McQueen was sitting with 5 other directors, and he's like, if a Black person was to come to me and try and get into the industry, and a white person at the same time, he would pick the Black person. And he says the reason he's doing that is because the white people have many other white directors that they can go to, but they only have me. And then he said as well that he thought instantly that he wanted to just tell Black stories, but no, create good content. But because there's less Black stories out there, it would be beneficial to tell those stories, not first, but there's a sea of content out there from other cultures, other races. It'd be very, very good. If you feel that you've got a strong Black story to tell, don't just tell any Black story. If you feel that really strong Black story, it has to be from here, has to be from the heart. If it's strong enough that you think, no, I need people to know this, then go ahead and tell it. If you want to be that director or producer that just continues to tell Black stories, that's no problem at all. You will flourish in this industry, and I mean flourish. You will do very, very well if you want to do that. But at the same time, don't limit yourself to that. Think to yourself, just creating great content, and people will no longer call you the black director. They'll call you a director.
No, I completely agree with that. No, that was amazing. The next question is: are there any initiatives or platforms out there that you advocate for young filmmakers looking to learn and looking for like kind of entry opportunities in the industry?
Platforms, entry opportunities in the industry,
like writing schemes or kind of filmmaking schemes that
filmmaking schemes. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that. I'm really sorry. The reason I don't have an answer to it is because I'm self-taught. So I've not actually went out there to find out where I can learn, how I can engage and learn. I don't really know. What I do know, though, is how powerful Facebook groups are. They're huge. Facebook groups are so powerful in the sense of, one thing you'll learn about creatives is that creatives are more than happy to share. I'd be more than happy to put together a masterclass and teach you absolutely everything that I know, because it's not just for me. I could teach you how to set up interviews. I could teach you how to do verity. I could teach you how to create film, anything. So go out there and go to specific film and TV Facebook groups and join and say why you want to join. That's the only places I can think of, unfortunately.
No, I completely understand. But as a self-taught filmmaker, that is really good advice. So the last kind of question that I had was that while coronavirus has created huge challenges for the film industry, what potential opportunities do you foresee in the coming months and years?
Potential opportunities for coronavirus, right? So the lockdown messed everyone up, right? But as a filmmaker who had time to sit back and think, I loved the lockdown. I thought, thank you so much.
Yeah,
good. And I just bought 2 cinema cameras, and when I bought those 2 cinema cameras, I was testing, and I wanted to create something at home, so I created something at home. Blah 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 blah. That started to do really well, and then we came out and we were hit with George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, and then from there, and what I noticed is, this is one thing, this is a positive I can give you, is if you're a black filmmaker, this is the best opportunity and best time for you to create. Go out there and create yesterday, today, tomorrow. Go for it. Yeah. The amount of work I've managed to get off of being a black director or a filmmaker, you're going to have very, very good, lucrative years ahead of you. If you asked me this last year, I wouldn't be able to be as confident. But see now, people are listening, and from all demographics, all different kinds of stories from the black creatives space. So in the years to come, coming out of the coronavirus and Black Lives Matter, I believe that, obviously not a blessing for people like George Floyd's family, but I believe that it was a blessing in disguise for the black community. I truly believe that. You will have if you've got a good story to tell, you'll have no problem in this industry. People within our industry right now who control, who give you the commission and give you the platform, they are willing, more than happy. I've done some stuff with Channel 4, BBC, STV, also ITV. I was asked to promote a documentary for a famous American musician. Talking to other black people, we are in a very, very good place just now. Be very happy for that, because if you've got good stories to tell and you're passionate, you will do very, very well. So in the sense of 4 years to come, anything that you do right now is historic. 2020 is a year that we'll be speaking about till our dying days, and all generations will be speaking about it. So whatever you create now, which has a political impact, any kind of impact, people will remember that, and people will also be viewing content from 2020. And as a form of education as well. So if I was to give you a little steer right now, try and come up with content that tells our story now, tells our, like, I don't know, don't make throwaway content. If you ask me if I want to make 24 hours in A&E, I'd be like, no, I don't want to make that. I'm not interested in that. Make something that resonates with you and the wider community, and I'll guarantee you're going to have a lucrative few years ahead of you if you make content now. So go, trust me, go now. Last year, pitching for Black and Scottish, it was fairly difficult. It took a little bit longer, but I guarantee you, if I was pitching for Black and Scottish just now, or a part 2 or whatever, I would get it. I would get it, because people are like, okay, you want to listen to your story.
100%. Thank you so much for that, Stuart. I want to squeeze 2 quick questions, very quick responses, just to squeeze it. We want to respect your time. I guess the first question would be on the point of what you actually want to do. What do you actually see yourself doing in the next couple of years? Like, what kind of films or documentaries do you want to make?
Okay, so this documentary that we're making just now is about a social media influencer who came to Scotland, suffered racism, PTSD, and he gives you insight into his world and what it's like as a social media influencer. And he's Black and he's from Scotland, originally from the Congo. So I'm telling a deeper Black and Scottish story, really. And then we're touching on racism and touching on mental health. And as Black people, Black men anyway, we don't talk about mental health. It's something that we don't explore. And being a creative, you're more prone to mental health anyway. Okay, so the next thing after that is a talk show. Again, this talk show is with this individual, but he's also going to be telling stories from his past and bringing in celebrities. But I'm shooting a film hopefully next month called Grey Matters, and it's basically 2 people that have been handcuffed, have been arrested at a protest, and they've been sent to this. They're sat in this cordoned off police area with police tape around them, and it's someone from the EDL and it's a Black activist, and they're just sitting beside each other. Someone shouts "All Lives Matter," and the white guy, he shouts it out, and then they butt heads and they go at it. But it's called Grey Matters because grey matter as in the brain, where we're taking in most information, grey as in reaching a middle ground, black and white, and also grey matters as in Black Lives Matter. And it's basically, I don't want to give too much away, but they realize, hold on a minute, we have a middle ground here. We're actually from the same area. We've grown up together. We've crossed paths many times. What the hell happened to you? And the other one's like, what the hell happened to you? And then at the very end, they shake hands, but whilst still handcuffed. So that's the kind of films that I'm looking to make. The other film is a film about a family coming over to like Spain or the UK in a paddling pool. There was a recent, so here's a good example. There was a story I read in the news, and it was about a family who came over in a paddling pool. I think one died, and I was like, paddling pool? Like, I just set up a paddling pool the other day there for my kids. This is crazy. So this is a film about a family who comes over and the kid dies or whatever. But these are the kind of stories that I'm looking to tell. And then also the following documentary after that is called All Mixed Up, and it's about the mixed people from different cultures who are mixed, black and white, Christian and Muslim, and you know, like people who have come together, and what is that melting pot? That's the kind of documentaries I'm looking to make over the next 2 years. So I'm hoping to have Grey Matters and the other documentary I just spoke about, but then as owning my own production company, I'm still happy for people to ask me to direct content for them as well, or DP. I just DP'd some work there recently, so I'm just building up that roster. But hopefully within the next 2 years, you could be coming to a premiere or something that I've created, some kind of premiere. The person that I look up to the most is probably Steve McQueen. He's like, if I was to meet him, I'd be starstruck. you know. He's the kind of person, 12 years a slave, and this is a British guy that's able to go over to America and tell Americans slave stories. How amazing is that? You know, so that's what I'm looking to create in the next 2 years, content like that.
That's amazing. My last question, just before we go, would be, what if you could give like a young filmmaker or anyone watching this right now one piece of advice going forward in their kind of filmmaking or creative careers, what would it be?
One piece of advice.
Yeah.
Kind of touched on it in the sense of, I think I've touched on it in the sense of finding your story. I think, see, I'm quite a deep person. I'm very deep, and I have to, because of the love of the human mind, as I said. Find out who you are. Find out why you want to tell these stories. It's as simple as that. Find out why, because if you don't know the answer to that, then something else is going to distract you, and then you think that you want to go down that route. Find out who you are first and foremost, and why is it that you want to create content? What is it what's that passion and love that's making you, what's compelling you to have to tell stories? What is that? When you find that out and you feel like you know who you are, then the second thing after that bit of advice I would give is, don't take no for an answer. I think that's probably the main one. Don't take no for an answer. If you believe in something truly, as I said, we'll go back to faith. If someone says to you, you believe in God, God doesn't exist. It's like, no, you believe that. You believe that's in your faith. Don't take. I'm happy to just go at people and be like, why are you saying that? Why do you feel this? Yeah, don't take no for an answer. Be confident, and don't just see, once you know who you are and where you're going in life, no one's going to be able to stop you. You know, no one's going to be able to get in your way. It's powerful. It's, you know, yeah. As I said, I'm quite spiritual in that sense, but yeah, just be yourself. Be confident. When you find out who you are, then who's going to stop you? You are the powerful one. Always remember that. If someone's an executive or someone is in this role and someone's got all this money and whatever, like, I'm the kind of person that I'm more interested in the homeless guy in the street and what his story is. I'm not that interested in someone who's fickle and someone who will give me millions to go and create something. No, why is that person homeless? Someone telling you don't go and create that story. No one's going to care about that story. No, I care about the story, and if I care about it, hopefully others will. So just stay confident. Don't take no for an answer. Obviously, take advice from other people within the industry, but I guarantee, when you know who you are and where you're going and where you're coming from, then you're on to a winner.
No, fantastic. Honestly, Stewart, this has been such an eye-opener, and I've learned so much from speaking to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Like, everyone at the Cambridge Film Association, like, was so thrilled that we managed to secure you. Hopefully, once lockdown measures and social distancing measures have loosened, we would love to invite you to Cambridge and to discuss more like technical aspects of filmmaking. I think there's so much we could learn from you.
I think I would love to definitely do something like that with you guys. I think I've been told that people have asked me to set up some master classes. I'm more than happy to bring down my cameras and set everything up from scratch. No, consider it done.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, honestly, Stewart. Thank you so much for your time. We just want to thank Stewart for coming on board. This will be the first in the edition of our behind the scenes web series. And please look out for further notifications on Facebook and Instagram for the next event. But Stewart, thank you very much for your time. I'm going to wish you a good evening. I'm sure you have dinner planned. But yeah, have a good evening.
Okay, thank you very much. You take care of yourself. Bye-bye.